is Straight to the Source, your destination for food, views and big ideas. Brought to you by two of the best in the business, Tonya Barr and Lucy Allon. Join them to discover some of Australia's most dynamic food, hospitality and agribusiness leaders.
Hello and welcome to Food, Views and Big Ideas. I'm Tonya Barr.
And I'm Lucy Allen, and this is the podcast from us here at Straight to the Source.
In this podcast, we will be introducing you to the people who are driving our food and hospitality industry forward. Whether it be on the land, in the water, in the kitchen, or from the boardroom.
Each of our guests are playing a significant role in the evolution of Australia's food identity and culture, and we want you to know who they are, their views and their big ideas.
Welcome back to Food, Views and Big Ideas. I'm Tonya Barr, and we've gone straight to the source today to the Riverina in New South Wales. We're going to meet farmer Frank Dal Bon, who runs one of the most diverse agribusinesses in Australia. Frank produces everything from large-scale rice crops to apple cider vinegar. Alongside his daughter Natasha, this duo, and I might say dynamic duo, also make award-winning extra virgin olive oil and condiments. Frank's motivation is simple: to feed people. His story is one of endurance, passion, and integrity. Frank, can you tell me, how long have you been farming?
We started farming in 1970. Previous to that, born in Griffith, grew up on a little 2-acre grape property. Dad passed away when I was 14, so I had to sort of grow up fairly quickly and help my mum with her little, with doing the grapes. They were table grapes, so it was quite a big job. And started a motor mechanic apprenticeship, finished that, and then met up with Jan and. I used to come out and help her parents that owned the property, and so got to enjoy the outdoors and a new challenge. And so in 1970, I gave up what I was doing and started with her dad. So that was the start of my farming career.
So let's talk about, you just mentioned the Riverina. Now that's a region within New South Wales.
It is a great area. It was first developed in early 1920s when they built Burrinjuck Dam and had soldiers returning from the First World War. And so they started opening up land in Griffith. Little blocks didn't work very well, far too small. And so as they expanded and made them bigger and made them more sustainable for people to farm. So that's where it all started, and basically started with horticulture, vegetables, and then in about 1930 sometime, one of the people that was working for the Murrumbidgee Irrigation Commission went to California and saw rice growing there, which very much similar valleys, in temperate and also soils, and came back and they trialled it and looked like it was going to work. So that was the birth of the rice industry. So, and that expanded. So it's the Riverina and especially Griffith, it's a major area for growing food, a lot of vegetables, a lot of oranges, a lot of rice. So it's a very, very important part of the food supply for New South Wales and Australia.
You mentioned table grapes. Do you still have table grapes?
No. We sold that block, and obviously there I learned some skills of what farming was all about at a younger age. Yeah.
I mean, you've been farming rice in particular for 53 years, if my math's right.
Yep. That's correct.
And is there a misconception about rice growing in Australia? Because a lot of folks don't even know that we grow rice. And the ones that do, there are some that wonder about the water usage.
Yeah. And look, and I think going back, say, 30 years ago, where, the systems that were in place were pretty arcade and there was a lot of water wasted. And if I can give you a little quick history on my development, when we did buy the property, we actually started to redevelop it in 1985, and so we started land farming. We put in recycled systems, which meant that no water was wasted, and the efficiency of irrigation improved immensely. So that was a big start for us to make sure that we were going to be sustainable for the long term. And so our production increased, our water use was a lot less, but also the rice industry through Sunrise, they developed some new varieties, which meant that the water use was very, very efficient. And to the point now where they're looking at producing 1.5 tonnes of rice per megalitre, which is quite exceptional. And with my travels to the US, it proved to me that as Australian rice growers, we are probably best in the world for our efficiency and also our yields and quality as well. So in answering your question, yes, I think people rice will still use water, but it's very, very efficient in what it does use.
Now, on the flip side of that, the amount of rain that we've had has been extraordinary. How has that impacted the crops?
It has impacted quite badly. This year we've probably only got 20 or 30% of our crop in. It's been very, very wet. So, and it's not only for me but for the whole industry. So there's a lot of water that's as you know, heading down the rivers and impacting on a lot of people. And, we can't utilise it because of our soils are so saturated and we can't actually plant.
When will we see the implications of that?
Yeah, look, I think for the rice industry, because of the business itself, they've got a mill in California and one in Vietnam that supplies a lot of the sort of food, the rice for the world market. For Sunrise, I think that they'll have enough product in the system where hopefully prices won't move too much.
Are you in a co-op, or how does that work from a licensing point?
Yeah, look, it was a co-op, and now it's on the ASX, and it's a fantastic business. Rice growers as such, they are all owners of the business, and also a lot of other people have become owners because it's a very, very good food business. I think we export to about 75 countries in the world, and the brand is well recognised world over as clean, green provider of food. So it's industry owned and. But now on the ASX.
What advice would you give a young farmer that wants to get into rice farming?
Well, if I can answer the question in a broader scale, I think anyone that wants to get into irrigation farming and are in the right areas with the right soils and water, I think it'd be a great industry to get into. The beauty about rice is that it's a crop that you can plant when you've got the commodity of water, and if it don't, well, then you can go and grow something else. It's a great industry. And it provides a lot of food for a lot of people. And I think it's a great industry to be able to be part of.
How many rice farmers are there in the region?
Yeah, look, I think there's about 1,000 rice growers. It was more, but then as water became a very rare commodity, a lot of people shifted to other crops that were more suited for their soil types, but around about 1,000 growers.
So this might be a crazy question, but are you guys capturing the rainfall now? Do you have tanks to just kind of squirrel some water away for the future?
Yeah, I guess the amount of rain we've had, we've captured as much as we can, but basically the rest of it flows down the creeks and finishes up in a river somewhere.
What other influences would affect your crop yield?
Well, obviously temperature, and this year with the rain we've been having, it's been a really cool start to to spring and only about a week away from summer, and it certainly ain't feeling like summer. And also, growing conditions can be a real problem when you've got a lot of wet soils and trying to get plants established. So there's always the challenges when it comes to rice. And then with other crops, be it fava beans, cotton, whatever, if you can't get in there and plant, well, then that is the major problem. But yeah, temperatures play a major part.
You've been growing rice for 53 years, and then at what point did you plant your first olive trays?
Well, back in 2000, we had expanded our area. We bought some more land, and one of the properties that we're actually leasing had some olive trees, and we thought, okay, what can we do with these rather than let them go to waste? So that's when we started that business of Morella Grove.
Okay, so you took over an existing farm.
Yeah, that's correct.
And what varieties were growing? What olive varieties?
There was some Frontoyas and also some Grigiolos, and also there were two main varieties that were planted on that grove. So it was a bit of an adventure because I had absolutely no experience at all with olive growing, but you soon learn, and we got some. I think for the first year we got about 5 ton of product and got that pressed, and then it was like, okay, well, we got some oil. What are we going to do next? So we got a label. Jan went to work and got some help and got a label established, and then went slowly out there in the market to find out if we could sell it.
You mentioned, you didn't know anything about growing olives. So did you go to YouTube or did you reach out to experts to learn how to grow olives and harvest olives? And then we'll get into the Morella Grove whole brand, the beautiful gourmet brand soon. But yeah, where did you gain that knowledge? Because you just can't, pull it out of your hat.
Yeah, Department of Ag at the time had an agronomist that actually specialised in olive trees. So I made contact with him, and also there was a couple of other people that were growing or are growing olives in the Riverina. So I made contact with them and spoke to other people that weren't exactly growing olives, but were growing permanent horticulture. And so it doesn't take long to be able to get a bit of an outline of what you need to do, and as long as you're prepared to ask, there's always someone with an answer.
So are you selling table olives as well?
No, we can, but we just haven't ventured into that yet. I guess we've just been too busy with our farming and also, just concentrating with the oil. But there is a market for it. We do have some trees that would suit, so we'll see where in the next couple of years Natasha's keen to take it on.
Do you have a team of locals that you hire, or are you doing everything yourself, or people within your family involved?
Yeah, look, about 5 years ago, Natasha, my daughter, was in between. She'd been in corporate life in Sydney and was in between jobs, and I asked if she wanted to come on as part of the Morella Grove business, and she decided to do that. So that brought another member of the family in, and so she's been very good at doing all the marketing and also expanding the business. As far as the farming side of it, we do that most of that ourselves. I just get a bit of help in when we need it. Time for harvest, we've got a contractor that comes in to shake the trees, and then we take it to a processor to get the oil processed. So, you're relying on a lot of other people to help you with it.
So when you bought the orchard, was it called Morella Grove, or did you come up with the name?
No, the property itself is called Morella, and so we thought, we'll just call it Morella Grove, and so that's where that started.
From a technology point of view in pressing the olives, what have you learnt about that, or how do you go about it? Yeah, look, I thought of at the time was, do I want to spend a lot of money putting in a processing plant?
So the answer to that was no. And so I looked around to see what was about. And there was a guy down at Jerilderie, which is about 100 kilometres away, that had a state-of-the-art plant and owns a lot of olive trees himself. And he does a bit of contract pressing. So, yeah, we went down and seen him, and he was very happy to do it for us. So, yeah, that means we don't have to worry about that part of the business. We just get someone with the right gear and the experience and the knowledge to do it for us.
So what about chemicals? What about, sprays and that sort of thing? What's your viewpoint on that?
Yeah, look, we're very fortunate to live in the arid environment, and you wouldn't say it now because it's been so wet, but, we can mulch our grasses, and as far as the trees, I've basically never sprayed them for any diseases. We haven't got any pests, so our chemical usage is, basically zero. So it's a good thing about living in the Riverina, being a semi-desert arid area. It's we don't have a lot of issues that a lot of other people do have.
Can you please tell our listeners how many different crops you grow?
Summer crops, which are planted normally in October and then harvested in say April, May. Rice. We have grown some cotton. We have grown some corn. Winter crops, which are planted May, June, is fava beans. We do canola for seed production, and also wheat and barley for seed production as well. So we've got a fair spectrum, broad spectrum of crops we grow.
Now, are they sold as commodities into the market?
The wheat is, fava beans also, but more so for food production. The canola and other wheats that we do grow for seed companies, we do the hybrid cross for the company, and that becomes seed for farmers the following year. So we play a fairly important part of seed production.
Do you find the camaraderie strong? Like, do you guys work collectively together, or do you guys all kind of stay in your own sandbox?
Yeah, look, it's interesting. I think we do collectively do things, like with the rice industry especially. Well, that's part of Sunrise, where most people, will deliver to Sunrise. So you are, as a group, with wheat, I think that people use that as a commodity that sells for making flour and also for stock feed. Fava beans, same story. Not much of it is grown in the area, but there is grown. And then canola is, obviously it's a big deal at the moment because there's such a shortage of it. So I think we play a fairly important part of value adding to especially food.
So let's talk about value adding. When I think about Morella Grove and your beautiful range of products you're growing the olives down there in the Riverina. You're pressing those olives into a award-winning extra virgin olive oil. And then you've also got, caramelized balsamic vinegars and apple cider vinegars and even beautiful soap.
Yeah, it's so, with the growing of that part of the business, when I first started, it was just basically olive oil, because time was a big thing, but also it was just finding the market. And as that expanded, we had people ask us if we could make some olive oil soap. So we did some research and found some people that would help us with it. So that sort of grew, and then had an opportunity to do some caramelized balsamic, and so it just added to the business. And then when Natasha came on board, that's when, she was able to really expand it, which now we've got beetroot, we've got apple, we've got cherry as far as the balsamics go. We've expanded the soap, and also now she's doing chili relish, some sardine, some peri-peri, And so she's really, really expanded that side of it, and also doing a lot of gifts and so forth. So,
well, I'm seeing the peri-peri and the sauté on pub menus more and more because you're doing food service as well as retail, which is fabulous.
Yeah, that's been expanded, and that's really started to take off. Especially the one that's really been a standout is the chili relish. A lot of restaurants are using that, and they've been very, very popular.
Lucy and I, we've had the luxury of coming down to your farm, and we've been down there quite a few times. And it's wonderful to see you guys go from strength to strength. I mean, congratulations on your recent awards with the Sydney Royal Fine Food. That was quite something else. You guys did really well in that show.
Yeah, we did, and it's just I think it's a credit to like myself and Natasha and Jan that we
just encourage you to enter, and we're there in your court. Yeah.
Look, I think it is. It's a bit of a pat on the back for for what we do, and I think we love our product obviously, and we enjoy doing it, and it's just nice to get the gratitude to say that it's good product.
So if I can just chime in here for the listeners, the Sydney Royal Fine Food is a competition that happens every year, and it's put on by the Royal Agricultural Society. And it really is an opportunity for producers across the country that are value adding and also primary producers to enter their products. And each of them are judged not by packaging, not by name, but by pure quality, eating, color, texture. So they're judged by 4 experienced sensory judges. And to get a silver, bronze, gold, or even been champion, which is amazing in its own right, to get any of those awards is quite difficult. And there's a lot of information that's fed back to the producer too. And Morella Grove recently entered and took home medals and also took home some guidance.
Yeah, and we're very proud of the fact that we did get some medals, and I guess what it does, it just gives you a tick to say that we're in the right direction, and we've got a very good product.
You've got an amazing range, and it gives us great pleasure to see it go from strength to strength, and to see it appear in cafes and, and the gift boxes you mentioned, and in homes and your online sales. And if people are looking for Morella Grove, I mean, you can go online, you can go on Instagram, you're on all those channels.
Yeah, and that's thanks to Natasha. But I think the other thing also that some of the people we supply in the food services, they just tell us how much they love their product, and also their clients also comment on, oh my God, where'd you get that olive oil from? So that it's a feedback that gives you a lot of satisfaction.
So what inspires you, Frank?
Yeah, I think, and I was only thinking about this morning. Autumn, when harvest time is happening, and especially with rice harvest. And you have a good day, and for that day's harvest, once it's been milled and packaged and sent off, and for someone to sit down and have a bowl or a plate of rice that will probably feed 500,000 people, for that day's harvest, one bowl of rice, and that gives you a lot of satisfaction that what you've done is that you're value adding and also feeding people, and that gives me a lot of satisfaction. And I think that's probably been, it's been my push all the way along, is that we've tried to do everything as the best we can, and we've been very good at what we do. And you see the amount of food that you never think about it until harvest time, especially, is okay, what I'm doing here, what it's doing for not only Australia but also what's probably going overseas, and someone sitting down and enjoying your product.
It's like being part of a bigger purpose. Absolutely,
yeah. So that gives you a lot of satisfaction. And I guess the other satisfaction you get from farming, it's got a lot of negatives, and it can be really tough at times, and very challenging. But, especially if you believe in trying to leave it in a lot better way or in position than when you first got it, is that, you're developing land that's going to be sustainable for future generations, and that's very important as well. So that gives you a lot of satisfaction.
I love that. When you see your products and all your hard work being appreciated, whether it's in Australia or overseas, I mean, that's got to be pretty satisfying.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, after a while, it just becomes part of your day and you don't take much notice. But yeah, when you obviously, that a lot of people who sit down and use your product and they keep coming back. So they're obviously enjoying it. And you should take a quiet moment and think about that and think, okay, yeah, I've had a really productive life in helping feed the world, I guess.
Well, in wrapping up, is there anything you would like our listeners to know or to think about when they're buying their Australian-grown food?
Yeah, I say to people, you explain about olive oil and, how it's made and all about quality and how to keep it and make sure that, and I say the most important thing is that you don't have to buy my oil, but try and buy Australian-made oil because we've got very, very good quality. We've got, basically it's a new industry compared to what happens in Europe. And I think that Australia are very fortunate to have some really good quality olive oils. And I say to people, just use plenty of it because it's very good for your health. But, if you can buy Australian, well then, that'll be best.
Love it. Is there anything else you want to touch on, Frank?
The only other thing I'd like to say is that from what I'm seeing, especially for the amount of graduates that are going through now universities for doing ag science, that I think there's a great future in agriculture. So a lot of the young people are taking it on, which is fantastic. So, and it's a great industry. It has its moments and there's always issues to deal with, but generally I think it's a great industry to belong and they play, as I explained, we play a very important part on keeping people's tummies full and also having clothes on their backs.
Well, are you mentoring any ag students at the moment?
I am actually. I've got a young guy that's come on board with us and his parents are large area farmers, dry area farmers, and this guy's has decided to come back and wants to get into irrigation agriculture, and so he's come on board with me. And I think, and it's been always my desire to when I decide to retire from farming, that I can pass the baton on to a young person that will continue. And I think that's going to work out for me. So it's obviously going to be really good to be able to pass it on to someone that's going to be there around for another, hopefully 50 years to keep that business going.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for the chat this morning and for sharing your insights and your story and your passion for the land and for the Riverina.
Oh, it's a great area. It is. And if you sit down and just work out how much produce leaves here on a daily basis, it's quite amazing.
Well, it's not called the food bowl for nothing.
That's exactly right. Yeah, really.
All right. Well, you have a great day, okay? And thank you so much for your time and for the chat.
Thanks, Janine.
Well, thank you so much for tuning in with us today. We really hope you enjoyed listening as much as we've enjoyed the conversation. You'll find links to anything mentioned in today's chat in the show notes. We have some more extraordinary guests lined up and we would love you to join us again. So please make sure you're following us on your favourite podcast app so you don't miss future episodes. We'd also love to hear any of your feedback, good or bad, or perhaps you've got a guest you'd love to hear from. You can let us know. And the best way to stay up to date with what we're doing, who we're talking to, and where you'll find us around the country is to become part of the Straight to the Source community at straighttothesource.com.au/community. Until next time.